Hi everyone, it's Nicole and I'm here with what I read in May. And I just showed you a little stamp set here quite a few months ago. I had lost the stamp set. I could not find it and it was one of my favorite ones. It's the little one with the girl that's standing up on some book stacks. And I kind of figured that it would show up someday in some kind of container, and it was in that Project Life card box. So I put it back where it belongs. So what I do is when I start a new month, I just choose a different box, and that way each of the boxes that I own, they each get a chance to get their cards used up, and I don't go from box to box in 1 month. Every month I just change the box and I will find a color that suits my book within that box. And then that way it kind of makes it so that it doesn't take me forever to find cards for each photo. And usually that's what I do right away. I just right away go through the cards, and as soon as I find one that is suitable, I just glue it down right off the bat. I don't spend a lot of time, trying to find the perfect card for each of the photos, and then I find a coordinating card to go with it, and that's where I'll do a little bit of embellishments and a little bit of the journaling. Just a few sentences that talk a little bit about each of the books. And I'm really liking having a place where every year I kind of have a summary of all the books that I read in the whole year. I know I can go to Goodreads and kind of check all the books that I've read, but it's nice to just have an album where I can flip through and see all the books that I've read in 1 year. And I'm especially loving the 12 by 12 size for the album because in a 2-page spread, up to now, I've been able to put all the books that I've read in 1 month in a 2-page spread. So each 2-page spread is a month. Talking about the month, every month I pick one card, a 4x6 card, that I put sort of the title. So this month, where it's what I read in May, I'm just going to put May Reads, and I took some thickers for the word May, and I'm going to use some of my tiny letters to put Reads. And then because I read 9 books this month, it kind of leaves me 2 other spots where I have to take a 4x6 card and I put just different things that are related to books just to kind of fill up those extra spots. One thing that I did was I took one of my iris containers and I'm using the same stickers over and over again until the sticker books are all gone, and then that way it's not a lot of thinking. I just need to, get the sticker books and then start making some embellishment clusters. Now, I didn't think about it, but the first book I did wasn't the first book I read in the month. And as soon as I finish this one, I'm going to go and put the books in order. But we're going to talk about Things You Save in a Fire by Catherine Center. This follows a girl who's a firefighter, and because of circumstances that happen, she ends up having to change units. She has to go to another firehouse, and it's all the struggles of being a girl and being new in a firehouse. I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars, and I even got my husband to read it. He reads books only on audiobooks. While he's doing other stuff, he listens to books. And he loved that book too. This is an adult contemporary, but there was a lot of talk about firehouses and, what goes on in a firehouse and the training and all this stuff. It kind of reminded me a lot of, Chicago Fire or Station 19, which are some of the TV shows that we really enjoy watching. So it kind of reminded me of that. And this is where I realized that the books were not in the order that I read them, so I'm fixing them all and then I'll do each book in the order that I read them, and it's going to make it easier to talk about each of the book. So the first book I read in May was Serious Moonlight by Jen Bennett, and this is not my first book by Jen Bennett. It's probably my third or my fourth, and I really enjoy her books. They're young adult, contemporary, really fluffy. This one, it follows Birdie and Danielle. They work at the same hotel, and they both love books and stuff. And there's this mysterious author that keeps coming to the hotel only for like a few hours once a month, and so they're trying to figure out the mystery, and there's a little romance between the two of them. It was cute. I gave it 3.5 stars. Probably not my favorite of her books, but I did enjoy it. I gave it 3.5 stars. Sometimes it's fun just to read a book that doesn't have a big plot at the center. It's just nice and fluffy and just makes you feel good. And that was that kind of book. The next book I read was Blitz by Alexa Martin. This is the third or the fourth in the series, and it follows a football team, and each book concentrates on a different member of the team and their romance. This follows Maxwell and Bryn and their romance, and you still see the characters from the previous books. And I really enjoy that. I feel like I'm invested in the story, and I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the second book in the Raven Cycle series, where it's a bunch of friends that are looking for a Guelph king, and the first book was a little bit confusing, but as soon as you get into the story, it is such a good story. I enjoyed the second book. I gave it 5 stars. I love the pace of it. I love the characters. There's some element of almost like, not magic, but almost like magic. Like her mom can read cards, and she is an amplifier. She was told all her life that if she kissed her true love, that he would die. And there's just so much involved in that story, but I absolutely loved it. Love that book, 5 stars. The next book I read was Undercover Bromance by Lyssa K. Adams. And that's also a book in a series. And this time, instead of football, it's a bunch of guys. There's one that is professional ball player. They're all men of influence, and they're all part of a book club, and they try to help each other with their romance. This was super cute. I really enjoyed it. This follows Mac and Liv works in a restaurant, and the owner is sort of a bad guy, and so they're trying to take him down. That's how their romance blossom, is because he's trying to help her out. The next book I read was Little Do We Know by Tamara Ireland Stone, and this is a young adult contemporary. This follows 2 girls that have been friends, forever and a day, and something happens and they're no longer friends, and then one of the girls ends up saving the boyfriend of the other girl, and it kind of opens up the door for them to maybe become friends again, and it follows that story. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Really good book. The next one I read was In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. Now, Danny wakes up one morning, and it's 5 years in the future, but everything is wrong. She's not with the person that she's about to marry. And then 24 hours later, when she wakes up again, she's back 5 years in the past. So then she's trying to figure out, like, why am I with the wrong person? Like, what's going on? And then she ends up meeting the guy that she dreamt about. And he's going out with someone that she knows. And so it's all about that story. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It was entertaining. And the next book I read was Call It What You Want by Bridget Kemmerer. This is not my first book by Bridget Kemmerer, and I really enjoyed the first one, and I really enjoyed this book too. I gave it 5 stars. This follows two teenagers. There's Rob, whose father was accused of embezzling money and how it affected his life and his life at school and his life at home, him and his mom. And then it also follows Megan, who all her life she compares herself to her sister and she doesn't feel like she can kind of meet the expectations that her parents have for her because of her sister. And then something ends up happening with her, and they end up sort of becoming friends, and there's a relationship that builds up. I find that Bridget Kemmerer's book, they really make you think, and they really they're really based on characters instead of a story, and I really like that when it's done right, and she does it really well. The last book I read for the month of May is The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. This probably was my least favorite of Christina Lauren's books. This is The Honey Don't List, and this follows a couple of reality home improvement show, and their right hands, and but everything is not what it seems, and the story kind of builds up for that, and it's the relationship between the two people that are their right hands. That's what is at the core of the story, and I enjoyed it. It was okay, entertaining, but not what their book usually is for me, but I still enjoyed it. So the last thing I got to do is those 2 extra cards. So on one card, I'm going to put Once Upon a Time, and then the other card, I'm going to put I Love Books, and then put a little bit of embellishments, and that's going to complete what I read in May. And I usually get those done right away, because if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. So I take the time and get those cards done, and I also put them right in the album right away, because otherwise, again, if I don't do it while I'm working on it, it's not going to get done. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.